I think it's time for another segmented turning. Now I've got some maple out here. I'll use some of that, some bloodwood, and I've got sapele. And these are cut to strips. I think I can use those, but I will need to cut these into strips and more of this. I'm not going to show you that because you've seen me cut the little strips before and it's not really exciting. I will then show you some of cutting these into segments. And again, that looks the same no matter what size I'm doing. I'll show you a little bit of that. Then I'll show you gluing some of the rings together. Then we'll get to the really fun part. We'll get it glued onto the lathe and we'll start making something out of it. So let's go ahead and get going. So this is the bloodwood I'm cutting. I have 2 rings that will be made from bloodwood. The rest of the rings will be made from sapele, but I also will be cutting some padauk, and I'm going to use it in a way that I have not done, but I've thought about it for a long time, and I'm going to go ahead and do it today. So you're going to get to see this. So this is the sapele that I'm cutting, and there's quite a few rings, so I'll show you a little bit of this. So this is the ring that makes the base. It has a hole through the middle because it's going to be a floating bottom on it. And the next rings will be made from sapele, and I'll show you how those segments go together. So I know a lot of people use rubber bands for segments this size, but I just can't do it. My hands will not cooperate, and I find that these hose clamps work really good, so I just kind of stick with them. Okay, that's all but one more ring, and that ring is exactly the same size as that. So when I come back, we'll have something mounted up in the lathe and start working on it. So today I'm going to use my 1221. I have something on the big lathe there I don't want to take off. This is the bottom ring. It's actually mounted upside down. It's hot glued to a tenon similar to this. I'm going to hot glue this one on, flip it around, rechuck it, and we'll start adding rings. But I've got a big hole in here because I plan on using a floating bottom on it, and I don't do very many of those, but I think this is going to be a good place for it. So I've already centered this up, and we'll get it back on the center if I can. There you go. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a little test. See if it's sure looks like it's running around. Yep. All right. Hot glue gun should be ready, and we'll get some around this. This will stay on until we're finished with the turning. Alright, that is pretty hot, so we're going to just let it cool down, and then we'll get it flipped around. I'm going to use a parting tool and create a step here, and then we'll use a thin piece of wood in there for the bottom. Turn that up. It's about 760 RPM. What I was scraping off the tip of that tool there was the hot glue. When I removed the other tenon, it left a little bit on there. Got a piece of 1/8 inch veneer. Just going to put a couple drops of glue on it. And we'll drop it in here and just while it tacks up, just put a couple clamps on there, and I'll get the segment marked here so I can center it up and balance it with this lower segment. Just need to get some lines on there. We'll come back and we'll get that glued on, and that's going to be it for the day. Okay, I just kind of lined up the glue joint here in the center of this one here. Alright, sat all night. It is the next morning. I'm going to go ahead and make this ring round, flatten it off, and we'll glue another ring on. Then it will get very interesting. 850 RPM, half-inch bowl gouge. All that really needs. In case it looks like it, I'm not reaching over my lathe, I went behind the lathe. It was pretty flat to begin with, so I think I can just sand it. We'll see how close this is to size. I'd say it's close enough. It's within about 10 thousandths. Alright, let me get this all set up. We'll glue another ring on it. So while I'm getting the glue on this ring, I want to mention at the very end of the video, I have a question for everybody. It's about this secret project that I'm working on. It's made out of wood, but it is not a wood turning, and it's pretty cool. I got one of my cones on here. I had to put spacers on it in order to fit, but it looks like it's going to work. Now I just rotate it until the center of this lines up with the joint down here, and we'll be right where we need to be. Like that joint and that joint. Okay, that's it. Looks good. Let that sit for a while. We're going to go up and have lunch. Alright, I'm back. I want to make this ring round and start a little bit of blending down onto the base. 840 RPM. Half-inch bowl gouge. The lunch was wonderful. We met up with one of my sisters and my brother, plus a few nieces and nephews. And it's a place that we've been going to for years, and three of my sisters and my brother, who are no longer with us, love the place, so we do that to carry on their memory. And my sister Margaret passed away almost 6 months ago at the age of 98 years old. That wasn't meant to be a safety tip. I just remembered I hadn't taken it off when we got back from lunch. Your safety is totally on you. I may forget now and then, or I might not take it off just because of what I'm doing at the moment. But I will see it when I edit the video. I think that's going to do it. So right now I'm cutting the pieces for the feature ring, and I am using the new CNC milling machine that I was sent to try out. And if you're not interested in this, it's not going to last all that long. And as a matter of fact, I posted this as a review, and I had a couple complaints and said they swore off my channel because I used a CNC milling machine, and I put right in the comments and in the title, So if you see that and you're not interested in anything but wood turning, I'm okay if you don't watch this. But I did warn everybody, and I've got something else coming up that's not done with a CNC machine. It's all done with normal woodworking tools. Hope you're willing to watch that, because it's something that I've wanted since I was 15 years old. I decided I'm just going to go ahead and make one for myself. Alright, it's time to cut the feature ring, and that's these little segments with hearts in them. I'm doing 12 segments per row. That means that 12 into 360 is 30. It's 30 degrees on both sides, which is an included angle, so we have 15 on each side. Blade is held at 15 off of the table. I'll just put this in there and index it in. I leave just a little bit of straight right here, so I can just turn it around, hit it against that stop, and the lengths will all be the same. I'll go ahead and cut a few of these, but it does look exactly the same. So after cutting the angle on both sides, I glued a thin piece of sapele on one side just to add some interest. I'm gluing the feature ring together right now, and I'll show you in a second what it looks like, but it'll be pretty cool looking. The segments fit perfect after coming off the table saw with no extra adjustments. Alright, I'm all set to put the feature ring on, but I discovered I had a miscalculation and I've had to fix it. The feature ring, here it is, 12 hearts. I think it looks great, and they only go down so far. And the diameter that I had here, in order to clean that up, I would have cut through the shape that I have. And so what I've done is added a ring here and made a kind of a bell shape. I'm hoping that I'll be able to save this. So I cut the sound here because there was some background noise. I think somebody was running a chainsaw nearby, but there was a lot of noise coming from me just rambling on about different things. One thing was how my voice goes out, and I just thought, well, that just sounds ridiculous. I'm just complaining too much, because it's really not all that bad, and you don't want to listen to me complaining. Okay, this sat all night. I just flattened it off using my sanding board. I'm going to get this one glued on, and then I have, let's see, 3 more to go. And I'm actually kind of liking that shape that has developed, even though it wasn't part of the plans. So we'll get some glue on this. Probably let it sit for a half hour or so. We can flatten it off and get another one on it. Okay, this is pretty easy to line up because I have a line right down the middle of my little heart segment. And then I just line that corner up with it and check the rest of them. Looking good. Oh yeah, that's not bad at all. Okay, let that sit, and I'll see you in about a half an hour or so. Well, that's been sitting for probably an hour, so it's fine. I'm going to round this up. I'm not going to go much past touching the center of that heart. I've only got probably a 1/4 inch to deal with before I get through it, and we don't want to do that. After that, I need to rig up something to support this. My steady rest for the big lathe will not fit here. I kind of have an idea. I would like to have one on there just because it helps. I'm going to be doing about 800. Now we can turn that up a little bit. And we've got a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Alright, that's not too bad. So I will be right back after I figure out how to support this. Alright, you gotta promise not to laugh about this, but I think it'll work. This is something I use when I make bowls from a board. I put this on the back side and it'll catch the rings, keep them from flying off, that is. So I've got rubber bands for tension and I have it clamped to the bed. It's going to make a little bit of noise. I haven't turned this down as far as I want, so I'm not worried about that. So it's better than nothing. Let's give it a try. We'll start with a 3/8 gouge just to keep from taking too big of bites. Okay, time for another ring, and my cone wasn't big enough, like I said, so I added some spacers, and that's been working out really nicely. It gets them centered, and I just line the joints up so they're staggered. Reaching like this is just a little bit awkward because of the shortness of the lathe and the tailstock in the way. I'm about ready to solve that problem. I'm going to finish the blending of this with the lathe running in reverse, and yes, I do have a set screw in there for that. I'm going to do about 600 RPM. Okay, so this last ring is Purple Heart, just like the base is. Okay, I just got to point this joint to that joint there, like that. And I think it's probably going to look pretty good, but let's rotate this around and check them. Yep. Yep. Okay, that looks good. Alright, I'm going to true up the inside of this, and then I'll be able to take my little contraption off and finish the outside. I didn't say, but that ring sat on there for about an hour and a half before I came back out and finished turning it. Okay, now it's time to find a shape. A little different than my original plan, but I think we can get something here. And that doesn't have to be symmetrical over to here. So we're going to start by rounding this up, and then we'll go from there. I don't know what it's going to look like. $860 RPM. I do have a block in here to help stabilize everything. I'm using a 1/2-inch bowl gouge. I'd say that is as far as I better go right there. And I think I can keep this, take some more off of there so it blends better. This is okay, but see if I'm here. I can take just a little bit more off of that, and I think that's going to be it. I got this piece back in here. It definitely helps to take any harmonics out. Alright, we're going to do this with the scraper. Okay, I've got it all set up to sand. I think I'll start with 80 grit because of just a little bit of blending I need to do right here. And I'll have the lathe running in reverse about 380. And I'm not going to show you sanding on the inside because it's such a small opening that this is going to block everything. So I'll get it sanded to 400, come back, and we'll get a finish on it. And we are sanding in reverse, if I didn't say that. Make sure you watch to the very end. I have a question for everybody on my secret project that I've been working on. Alright, it's time to put a finish on this, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with how it looks, at least in the viewfinder for sure. What I do have is an almost full can of the Rust-Oleum lacquer, and I know this is good stuff. So let's put some of that on it. Here it goes. Light coats because I have Paduk, which will bleed. Till I do this like maybe 3 times. Then I'll put heavy coats on it. I need to find my chuck protector too before I get carried away. That didn't take long. It was on the end of my other lathe. Wow. Okay, let's do another light coat. Look at that inlay showing up. That is some pretty wood. We got that purple heart there. No bleeding yet. Alright, that's exactly what the rest will look like. I'll know how many coats I want on there after I see how it's looking. It might be 6 to 8 coats. That won't take that long. Well, it is all done. And for having a little hiccup in there, I couldn't be any happier with how it turned out. I think it's pretty cool. Finished 4 1/4 inches tall. It's 5 1/2 inches in diameter. It's made from inlay, maple, Paduk, and bloodwood, and a piece of mahogany that I put on the inside. And you can see I didn't let the hearts go all the way through on the inside. But I sure like them on the outside, and so does quality control. There's the base on the bottom, and I didn't show removing that tenon that was hot glued on. I used my real thin parting tool and went almost all the way through, and I put a little denatured alcohol on it and it just popped right off. So I think that worked very good. I used 7 coats of lacquer sprayed on, and in between each coat I buffed it out with the fine Scotch-Brite, and then I finished it using the Axe sanding paste and the polishing paste, and it just glows. You can see a lot of chatoyance in that sapele. Should look really good on the turntable. I could only work on this now and then, so it just felt kind of broken up as I was making it, especially when I got to the editing part, because I just had to kind of put everything together that I had done. So I sure hope, despite that, that you really enjoyed the video. I just want to thank everybody for getting this far. The last 3 weeks have really been crazy for me, but they're getting better. Let me know what you think about this video. Does it absolutely drive you crazy if I use a CNC machine on wood turnings? Just leave a comment and let me know. Also, be sure to watch to the very end. I want your opinion on my secret project. So, till the next time, see you later. Behind that sheet is my secret project. It's something I first wanted back in about 1964. I finally decided I'm just going to make my own. So I've been working on this off and on for maybe a couple months. I want to post it. Let me know if you're interested. And do you want it to be a Friday video? There's no wood turning in it, or just any time during the week. So let me know in the comments. What do you think? You want to see it?